I have many things to say. Hi, I'm Polly. I'm a 2D animator. I'm Mexican, born and raised, and unfortunately, I really like Genshin Impact. Today we're gonna talk about the nation of Natlan in Genshin Impact and its Mexican representation. I already made a video on Natlan, but it was back in version 4.1, and it had a lot of speculation on the possible storyline they were gonna go with, you know, Natlan. But I don't think my theory was correct, or maybe it will be in the future. I don't know. But as of right now, nothing of what I said in that video is happening. But if you wanna hear me just go insane on Aztec mythology and cosmology, you can watch that video. I'm still gonna go crazy on Aztec mythology this at the time of recording this, version 5.2 is like 2 days away, and I originally wanted to wait until of Natlan's storyline was finished, but that's gonna take a while, and I don't have the patience. And even now, with the current information we have up to 5.1, this video is gonna be pretty long. I know, I already know this. So, I said this all to say I'm gonna be talking about Natlan's Mexican representation up to version 5.1, so that's your spoiler warning. I am not gonna be going into deep detail about the story, but I'm probably gonna be mentioning characters that are spoilers. So just be aware of that. Now I'm solely gonna be talking about Mexican representation. There's obviously a lot of other representation in Natlan. Debatable if it's good or not. I'm solely gonna talk about the Mexican representation because that's what I know, and I don't really think it's my place to go and talk about all the other stuff that I'm not familiar with. So, now for the table of contents, we have pronunciation, cultural story and references with character names, tribes, NPCs, blah blah blah, music, locations, cultural architecture, food, and finally my redesigns because Natlan's designs are a choice. So I'm gonna put timestamps down in the description so you can just jump ahead to whatever topic you're interested in the most. So let's start with pronunciation. I wanna put a disclaimer here though. There's a chance I may be wrong. I did learn the basic syntax for this when I was in elementary school, and obviously what I heard about in legends and stories all throughout my life. But there's a chance I may be wrong. I did do my research before doing this and just be completely sure I'm not BSing you, but just want to be transparent. There's a chance, and if I'm wrong, and there's another Mexican person watching this, please correct me. Please correct me because there's a big chance. Oh, by the way, just to be completely clear, most, if not all, of these names are you're gonna be hearing are Nahuatl, and just to clarify, Nahuatl is not a dead language. I'm scared people think Nahuatl is a dead language. It's not. If I'm not mistaken, it's the second most spoken language in Mexico after Spanish. Yeah, it's not a dead language. People still speak it. I've come across people in real life who speak it. I don't, but this is a very alive language. Anyway, let's get with the pronunciation. For the playable characters, I'm actually very pleasantly surprised because they do pronounce it very well. We have Kinich, Chilonen, Citlali, and Chaska. Chaska is a Salvadorian or Peruvian character. She's not Mexican. I'm just gonna put her in here because Latin America, and there's not another Salvadorian or Peruvian character in Atlan thus far. So I'm just she's not abandoned somewhere. I'm just gonna put it in here. Kinich, Chilonen, Citlali, Chaska. Kinich, we also have the menace that is Ahau. I was the most surprised with Ahau's pronunciation in the game because it's written as Aja in the game. I was fully expecting that they were gonna pronounce it as Aja in the game, but they pronounce it Ahau. That's the correct pronunciation, and I was very pleasantly surprised. Ahau is actually well pronounced as well. For the non-playable characters, we have the first Pyro Archon, Ishvalanque. In the game, he's pronounced as Shabalanque, but if you wanna be fully accurate with your pronunciation, it's Ishvalanque. The main difference with this name is that in the English localization, Shabalanque you have the intonation in the beginning, Xabalanque, whereas in Nahuatl, you have it in Ixbalanque. So Ixbalanque is going up, while Xabalanque is going down. So you have Xabalanque, Ixbalanque. We have the very likely pirate dragon, Xucoalt. Xucoalt. I've seen some people saying it as Xucoatl. Obviously, that's a localization. I'm not mad at it, but it's kind of funny how you pronounce it. But it's not that bad. If you want to be accurate, it's just Xucoalt. 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 And we have the Lord of the Night, which is one of the kind of more complicated names. Joaltecutin. 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 There's also probably Yohualtecutin. Yohualtecutin. During my research, I heard both pronunciations. Unsure which one is the correct one, not gonna lie. It can be either of those. Yohualtecutin, Yohualtecutin. So you can pronounce it Hugh or you cannot. Yohualtecutin, Yohualtecutin. There is the Natlan hero that Mawika mentioned called Tenoch. And there is the dragon sage that worked alongside Ixbalanque, which is, this is one of the hardest ones, but it's Waxaclacun Ubacan. Waxaclacun Ubacan. We have the tribes. We have Metzli, Nanatzcayan, Mictlan, Tlalocan, and Huitzlan, which is my favorite. Huitzlan's pronunciation in the game actually made me laugh out loud. And every time it's pronounced in the game, I lose it. I completely lose my composure. It's so funny. Because they pronounce it as Huitzlan. Huitzlan! That's so bad. I'm usually not mad with the localizations because obviously people are gonna have trouble pronouncing words they don't know or they aren't used to in another culture or language. Like, I'm okay with localization. But Huitzlan, it's super easy. How do you fuck it up to be Huitzlan? Huitzlan! How did you, that's a talent. It's Huitzlan. It's really not that hard. I don't know how they did it. It's a fucking talent, but it's Huitzlan, okay? Metzli, Nanatzcayan, Mictlan, Tlalocan, and Huitzlan, okay? It's not that hard. I promise it's not that hard. Huitzlan! For the local legends, we have Ixcahuipili, Atlal, Cihuacoalt, Tlatzlacuilolt, Chimali, Cosijo. These are harder, so I'm gonna go over them again. Ixcahuipili, Ixcahuipili, Atlal, Cihuacoalt, Tlatzlacuilolt, Chimali, Cosijo. Those are the main pronunciations for characters, tribes, and local legends. So with that out of the way, let's finally get into the middle of the video, which is the cultural story and the references of the main story in regards to names. For this, we're gonna go over the characters again, but actually talk about the myth about it. I actually have a book about mythology. So, cut 2. Here's my book. Yeah, it's written by this beautiful woman, and it was actually very cheap when I got it in my local bookstore. It has mythology on everything, and it's actually like really interesting, and I really like it. But what we're interested in is the Mexican mythology. So, guess who's here? In my book, Kenichihao was a governor of the cosmos, formed by the sky and the earth, and he was a great chief that solved every problem the Mayas had, and he is portrayed as a small celestial creature. So that's Kinichihao. Obviously in the game we have Kinich and Ahau, but together it's Kinichihao. Next we have Xilonen, and Xilonen is actually a goddess called Chicomecoalt. She's a goddess of corn, vegetation, fertility, and she's obviously also called Xilonen. She was a goddess that offered humans the first tortilla. She wore a paper diadem, and she carried corn cobs with her, and a shield with flowers of sun. Not sunflowers, flowers of sun. And her clothes are portrayed with water flowers. Citlali is a normal Nahuatl name, and it's actually very common in Mexico. I actually just want to pull for Citlali when she's a playable character, solely because of her name, because Citlali is a very common name in Mexico. I have friends who are called Citlali, so it's actually really funny. Just like Citlalis are canon in Genshin Impact, it's really funny. Citlali means star in Nahuatl, so it makes sense in the context of Citlali in the game. It's a very common name. I just find it really funny. And I'm hoping for a character named Xochitl or Tonatiuh in Natlan. Please, just the holy trinity of Citlali, Xochitl, and Tonatiuh. If there's any other Mexican people watching this video, you're gonna understand. Me vas a entender, me vas a entender. O sea, estoy hablando con mexicanos que no existen, pero me vas a entender, güey. O sea, Citlali, Xochitl y Tonatiuh. No mames, güey, por favor. Necesito. Then we have Chaska. Chaska, as I mentioned, is either Salvadorian or Peruvian. Because there's two myths on her name, and one is Inca, which is Peruvian, and another is Salvadorian. In Inca, Chaska is a goddess of auroras. She's associated with weapons, obviously auroras, and Inti, a sun god. She brought light and rebirth every new day. She was a lover of nature and was portrayed with a basket filled with flowers and fruit. In the Salvadorian legend, she was known as the Virgin of Water, and in simple terms, she was betrothed to a prince, but she wanted a young fisher named Akayat, who was then killed by said prince. Chaska decided to follow him to death by throwing herself in the river, and since then she is associated with the full moon, and people avoid fishing during full moons out of respect. These characters have what are called ancient names in the game. These ancient names are all Swahili. This is a peak of my bigger issue with Natlan overall, but yeah, all of the ancient names are Swahili, so obviously I'm not fit to talk about those names. The ancient names in the game are also called Tokailt, which means name in Nahuatl. Fun fact, I didn't know this, but Tokailt created, quote-unquote, the expression Tokayo, which is we call people who have our same names. For example, if I'm Polly, and if I meet someone who is also called Polly, I'm gonna be like, hey, that's my Tokayo, or Tokaya, depending on the gender. Ishvalanque, he's a sun god, also known as a jaguar son, and he and his brother Hunapu were actually normal humans, and they were captured by death gods, and they were submitted to do painful trials, but both beat death and escape the underworld. And after that, they rose to the rank of gods of time, the sun and the moon. Mayans believe Ishvalanque carried the sun throughout the sky every day, and without him, humanity would not survive. He was portrayed as a young man with divine traits, wore a crown of jaguar feathers, wore jaguar skin, and had a staff in the shape of a snake, symbolizing rebirth. He actually really fits with his Genshin counterpart because, Xbalanque is a normal human who ascended to the position of a god after making a deal with a death god, precisely. So I actually found very cool that Ishvalanque is very similar to his Genshin counterpart, Xbalanque, because Xbalanque in Genshin Impact is a normal human who ascended to the position of a fire god. That's nice. That's nice. I actually really like that. We have the Lord of the Night, Yohualtecuhtli. Actually, Yohualtecuhtli is not a word, as far as I'm concerned. It's actually Yohualtecuhtli. I don't know if it's a typo or something, but it's Yohualtecuhtli. And yeah, the name means Lord of the Night. Yohualtecuhtli was a god of night who protected the dreams of children. He's associated with death, rebirth, incineration, and the throne of creation, and also the personification of death itself. Night is associated with endless chaos, and once understood, life sprouts. Nahuatl believed night to be a cosmological dimension that became the underworld, a house of different things. To contain this, the Nahuatl performed nightly rituals to keep the chaos at bay. Yohualtecuhtli's Genshin counterpart, Yohualtecuhtli, is actually again very accurate. Yohualtecuhtli in Genshin is revered as a goddess of night and death, and she keeps chaos at bay. Coalt is a fire serpent, also known as a fire dragon in Mexican mythology. The god Huitzilopochtli carried Xucoatl with him as a living weapon, known for kinslaying. As a heavenly being, Xucoatl lived in the firmament, and as a being of fire that lived in the heavens, he was considered a Nahuatl that protected the gods such as Huitzilopochtli. We're gonna talk about what a Nahuatl is in a bit. Xucoatl and his Genshin counterpart, again, is actually very accurate because Xucoatl in Genshin is the dragon of fire. Xbalanque killed him. And lastly, we have Tenoch. Tenoch is just a mentioned character by Mabuika in the Archon quest, but he's really funny to me. Tenoch is a very common legend and he's the namesake for Tenochtitlan, which is currently Mexico City. That's why it's so funny to me, because we have the namesake of Mexico City. It's really funny, like Citlali to me, because Citlali is a very common name, and we have Tenoch, which is like one of the most known legends in Mexico, which is, the namesake of Mexico City. It's so funny. Tenoch was a Mexican leader. He promoted what is called Toltequización, which is a certain belief of how universe and life came to be. He created privilege for the noble to establish a royal lineage, and created the first Fuego Nuevo, or New Fire, which is a ceremony to welcome the new year. Cultural references we have what are Wayop and Nahuales. Xucoatl was considered a Nahual. The Wayop are spirit guides for shamans at the most basic forms. They are intermediaries between gods and humans, and Mayan shamans connected to their Wayop in search of guidance and wisdom. In the game, Wayops are portrayed as these huge obsidian blades. Obsidian is very important in Aztec mythology. It's just, I actually have obsidian with me. I carry with me. I have a ribbon obsidian. I'm gonna put a picture somewhere here. But what's funny here is that they are connected to Nahuales. Nahuales are people who are able to shapeshift into animal spirits. Nahuales are very common in Mexican culture. Obviously, in the mythology, they were very respected. In modern times, people are scared of Nahuales because they are associated with warlocks, and there's a lot of jokes like, tenemos un pinche Nahual en mi casa. I'm saying so many things people who don't speak Spanish are not gonna understand, but usually we make jokes about Nahuales just beating your ass or just getting into your house and stealing stuff. We make jokes about Nahuales, but there's a chance Nahuales exist and people are scared of them, myself included. I just make jokes about them, but I will not be surprised if they actually exist. Now we have the tribes. The tribes is gonna get very convoluted. This entire video is convoluted, but you understand. You get what I'm saying. The tribes in Natlan are named after the 13 Aztec heavens. And this is where I bite my arm, because these heavens were created by the gods Tezcatlipoca and Quetzalcoatl, which I talked about in my previous video. And I really wanted Quetzalcoatl to be in this game, because he's the most known deity in Mexico. I've seen and met so many people with Quetzalcoatl tattooed on their arms or necks, and it's just, why isn't he the feathered dragon in a nation of dragons that is inspired by Mexico? I'm fucking losing my mind. But I digress. Anyway, the 13 heavens were created by Tezcatlipoca and Quetzalcoatl in the form of the 4 cardinal directions. 9 corresponding to the underworld, Mictlan, 1 for the earth, Tlaticpac, and 7 for heaven, Tlalocan. As said, in Genshin we have Metzli, Nanatzkayan, Huitztlan, Mictlan, and Tlalocan. There's also a 6th tribe known as the Collective of Plenty, but as the time of recording, I do not know its 13 heaven counterpart. We don't know what it's called. So we're gonna work with the other 5, Metzli, Nanatzkayan, Huitztlan, Mictlan, and Tlalocan. Personally, after some research, I don't think this fit a lot with their Genshin counterparts. The elements in the actual myth and the elements in the game don't line up at all. But I'm gonna talk about the heavens in the myth, and you can try and link it back to the game, but I can't see it. So, Metzli. Huixicalt Metitztlan, the first heaven, known as the place where the moon, Metzli, moves. The gods Tlaseolt, god of filth, Tlaloc, god of rain, and Ejecalt, god of wind, inhabit this place. Tlaloc is a god of rain, and he's actually very known in modern Mexico, and people joke about him a lot. Whenever there's a violent storm, a hurricane, people are like, please, Tlaloc, chill out, please. In the game, Metzli is associated with the element of water. Huitztlan, 4th heaven, the sky of the big star, the heavenly tribe where Citlapol, the biggest and brightest star, moves. In this heaven, the god of dawn, Tlahuilcalpantecutli, the god of salt, Huixtocicualt, and Xololt, Venus' evening star, live. In-game is associated with Earth. In my opinion, this should have been the Masters of the Night Winds tribe, because Citlali lives there, and Citlali, Citlapol, yeah. Nanatzkayan or Nanatzkaloyan, 8th heaven. This is where storms gather so you can reach the air, Tlaticpac. Tlaloc sometimes comes here, but it's actually ruled by Itzlaculiuqui, god of frost, and a variant of Tlescatipoca. In game, this is associated with the element of stone. The 13 heavens represent Tlalocan and Mictlan, which are the namesake for our last confirmed tribe names. Mictlan, place of the dead, the underworld in Nahuatl and Mexican mythology. Those who died of a natural death go there, and is composed by 9 of the 13 heavens, as mentioned. Though in Nahuatl mythology it's composed by 5 other realms, the dead must walk through these realms in order to be worthy to enter Mictlan and gain eternal rest. There's another myth I talked about with my coworkers where to reach Mictlan you have to spend 1 year helping another spirits to reach eternal peace before being worthy to enter Mictlan and reach eternal peace yourself. I think this is more of a local myth though. I couldn't find any articles about it, but just In game, this is ice. And it makes sense because just resident emo boy Ororon hails from this place and he's deeply connected with souls and the afterlife. And Citlalis too, if I'm not mistaken, but I digress. Tlalocan is under the rule of Tlaloc and Chachihuitlicue. It's a water paradise where souls reach eternal rest. The souls float in rivers of honey and milk and are surrounded by an eternal spring. It's the first level of the 13 heavens. It encouraged Mexicas to worship water as a source of life and to care for nature. In game, this is wind, and honestly, I don't know what to expect in game because this is not released in the game yet. And all we know from its in-game counterpart is from Chaska, and Chaska is not giving me any afterlife paradise-esque vibes, but I guess we'll see. And again, for the last tribe, the Collective of Plenty, we have no idea what the 13 Heaven counterpart is. As of the time of recording, probably when 5.2 comes out in like 2 days, we're gonna find out, but I can't wait to record this. For the local legends, it's a bit more straightforward. We have Ichcoajipili. It's named after a Mexica cotton armor. It's a bulletproof vest. Atlalt is just a weapon. Cihuacoatl is a warrior goddess and the mother of all Mexicas. Tlaxcaquiolt, I couldn't find the name. The closest name I have is Tlazoteolt, which is a goddess of lust. In Mexican mythology, Chimali is a Mesoamerican shield made from sugarcane, maguey, cotton, and is decorated with jade, feathers, and gold. Cosijo is probably named after Pitazo Cosijo. He is a Zapotec god of rain, an equivalent to Tlaloc. For Saurians, is the little dragons we have in Natlan. Saurians, unlike their tribes, are very spot on when it comes to the elements, though not all of them are Mexican. We have the Tlepitsaurus, comes from the word Tepelt in Nahuatl, which means hill or mountain. Yumcasaurus, which is associated with earth. Mayan mythology, Yumca means dwarf that cares from the jungle and animals. There's an ecological reserve in Villahermosa, Tabasco, which is called Yumca. Those are the only Mexican saurians, but if we have the Cucusaurus, which is probably Chilean, I assume it's named after Chonchon, which is a creature from Chilean mythology. The Tancasaurus, which is lightning. Tomisaurus, which is ice. From what I researched, Lakota. Tomi means day catcher, and Tatanka was a spiritual leader from the Lakota. And the Cuculosaurus, Hola means humpback whale in Hawaiian, from what I heard. And finally, for the NPCs, I only have 2 NPCs that come to mind, which is Tlazoli, that is in Chilonen's story quest, and Trinidad, which is from Teenage story quest. Tlazoli is a variant for the name of the goddess Tlaseolt, goddess of lust. And Trinidad, I just want to mention him because the way it's pronounced in the game is also so funny to me. You usually pronounce it as Trinidad, but in game they pronounce it as Trinidad. Just like emphasizing the dad, and it's really funny to me, so it's Trinidad. I met so many old women called Trinidad. So, yeah. So, that's all the cultural story and references when it comes to names. There's very, very Mexican-esque music in Natlan. I say esque instead of fully because I'm not 100% sure they wanted to go 100% Mexican here. There may be some mixed elements, as we will see in a minute. As of right now, Genshin has only released 1 album with the current Natlan OST, so I went ahead and separated the songs that have Nahuatl in them. I'm not going to talk about all of them, just the ones that really caught my attention, for better or for worse. I'm talking about Tequemecan Valley, World of Chalchihuitlicue, Halls of Hueyetolt, Huicalt of Congamato, Quetzal's Yearning, Dazzling Moon of Metzli, Fruit of Huilicapitzli, Venture of Tonolamalt, Campa Timoyetzika Cempasúchil, and Moon of Hanan Pacha. For the positives, I love the music. I have a lot of fun when I'm fighting enemies in Natlan or just hanging around. Music is Genshin's biggest strength, and they did not disappoint. And to their credit, I can actually recognize Mexican or Mexican-esque elements in there very clearly before I even knew the names of these songs. And it's great, I really have fun at this. Songs like World of Xochitlicue give me mariachi vibes, just a little bit. If you squint, it's a little bit mariachi. I'm not saying full mariachi because if I say that, people are gonna come out to kill me. But if you squint, there's a bit of mariachi in there. Quetzal's Yearning is fun because it has Quetzal in it. Quetzal is a very beautiful Mexican bird and is found in mythology just as, Quetzalcoatl. I actually named my Saurian companion in the game Quetzal, so yeah. And Venture of Tonolamalt is fun because Tonolamalt is a sort of Aztec divine codex used by priests and Mexican sorcerers. Tonalá is also a city in Mexico I passed by, so it's nice, it's nice. The one who interested me the most is Campa Timoyetzika Cempasúchil. It's so interesting to me because of Cempasúchil. The full song translates to Where are you, Cempasúchil? If you're not aware, during Dia de Muertos, the flower that is used everywhere to honor the dead is Cempasúchil. It's the Dia de Muertos flower. They sell it en masse all throughout October. And I actually got scammed this year because I bought a really, really overpriced bouquet for my Dia de Muertos altar this year. Don't do that. Don't do that. But yeah, Cempasúchil is the flower, so it was really fun that they have it in here. I just think it will also be very cool if they included it in the game. Just saying, if they had a flower called Cempasúchil in Natlan, I will not complain. I will be very pleased. My biggest gripe with this segment is that two of these songs, despite having Mexican names, are actually African music. I'm talking about House of Huitolt and Cuicalt of Congamato. Huitolt is an old fire deity, and Cuicalt means song. This is not to say they are bad. They are beautiful. Again, music is one of the biggest strengths Genshin has. But it's just it's the issue. Like, why are we mixing cultures like this? It's really frustrating, and I really wish it wasn't the case. But it's just like, why? Why do you do? The Saints of the Canopy is arguably the most Mexican tribe, and I'm really, really pushing it. But its main theme song is African, and just it has me biting my arms. Like, why are we mixing cultures like this? Like, why? Cultural architecture is actually very straightforward. Just like in the Stadium of the Sacred Flame, it's just I don't know what to tell you. Just walking in here, it's just like you can see it. You can see it. Come on. In Mabuika, Statue of the Seven, she has an Aztec-esque sun behind her. Natlan's symbol is also very Aztec-esque. Just locations overall, it's just like you look at them and they give you Aztec. Not all of them, but most of them you can look and be like, the locations in the map are so funny to me. So funny, so funny. I'm gonna tell you why. We have Coatepec Mountain, Ameyalco Waters, and Huitzli Hill. Coatepec is a real city in Mexico. There's people who live there. It's like if you got into the game and you had a city that was called fucking San Diego Rivers. It's so funny. One thing it's taking mythology, and another thing is taking existing cities, exist modern cities. That's so funny. San Miguel Amayalco is another place in Mexico. It's another city. And Amayalco Waters, San Miguel de Allende. Like, brother, what are we doing? It's actually, I'm not mad at this. It's so funny. Please keep doing it. If they actually release a nation with the name of my hometown or the city I live right now, I'm just gonna lose my fucking mind. For Huitzli, it's not as funny. Just Huitzli means thorn in Nahuatl. But come on, Coatepec Mountain, Mayolco Waters. This is so funny, guys. For the food, oh my god, we have tacos, we have esquites, we have chilaquiles, we have chocolate, we have cacahuatl, and we have guayas. I said that so fast, you're probably gonna be like, what the fuck did you just say? Let me explain. Ever since Inazuma came out in Genshin Impact, back in version 2.0, it took me so long to realize, but I realized local cuisine in Genshin Impact was inspired by real life food. And I was losing my mind, please, are we gonna get tacos in game? We did, we have tacos. We have tacos in Genshin Impact, we have esquites, we have chilaquiles, we have all the names I just said. And it's so funny to me because it's seriously food I come across every day. There's food I eat every day. It's so funny. Obviously tacos are famous worldwide, but it's tacos. We have esquites, they're called a cup of grapefruit in the game, but come on, those are esquites. I do get why they call them cup of grapefruit in the game, because there's just a lot of debate whether if they are called esquites or elote en vaso, or just, I get it. So if you come to me and you tell me they are called elote en vaso, I'm gonna find you. We have chilaquiles. Chilaquiles is also a food I eat a lot, so it's really funny. And I find it sad they have no salsa on them. We have chocolate, which is the Aztec word for chocolate. Aztecs were the one that discovered chocolate, and they actually drank it, and it was super bitter and even spicy. So that's where chocolate comes from. We have cacahuat, which is cacao. It's literally cacao, but how you pronounce it, and I was very happy when I saw it. And we have the Arequipa berries in Genshin, but they are actually guayas. Guayas are a tropical fruit in Mexico. They are at the south of Mexico, and they are also known as limoncillo. I've never tried them because I'm very picky when it comes to fruit, but I've seen them, I've held them in my hand. When it comes to animals, though, the only animal I can tell are Latin American, not even Mexican, just Latin American, are llamas. Because llamas are very, very common in Peru. If Chaska turns out to be Peruvian, it would make sense. If they include more animals, I'm just, it would be very cool if you added quetzales. You already have a song called Quetzal's Journey. And my personal favorite, if you added Xoloitzcuintles, because there was a official art that had Kinich and Walani, and there was a Xoloitzcuintle in there. Come on. Come on, what are we doing? Xoloitzcuintles are a very important dog breed. They're completely bald, and they are not that common, actually. I've seen Xoloitzcuintles in person. They are very soft. It feels kind of weird to touch them, but they are very soft. They're just puppies. There's nothing more special in them than they are just completely bald. I used to think it would be really fun if you added chihuahuas. Chihuahuas are also very Mexican, but they are so funny. Come on, it will be really fun if we had chihuahuas in Genshin Impact. Please indulge me. Do this for me. Last but not least, we have the outfits. These are bad. I don't know what to tell you. The designs as a standalone are okay. I don't feel either way. They are okay. But you put it in the context that these are culturally inspired by really diverse cultures. It's just I've shown Kenich's and Chilonen's and Citlali's and Chaska's designs to my coworkers, to my mom, and every time I show them to them, they go, what am I looking at? It's so bad, you guys. It's so bad. It's really bad. I don't know how we got here. I don't know who is in charge of the cultural inspiration for these designs, but what are we doing? So I redesigned them because I couldn't help myself. So I redesigned Kinich, Chilonen, and Citlali. I was actually gonna redesign Chaska too, but then I thought about it, and Chaska is again either Salvadorian or Peruvian. And even if I did my homework, I'm not Salvadorian or Peruvian. And I was afraid of getting things wrong, even if I took references and everything. I'm not familiar with this. I don't have Peruvian friends I can go to, to ask for accuracy, so I left it alone. So, to talk about my redesigns, I redesigned obviously the only Mexican characters we have, which are Kinich, Shilonen, and Citlali. Starting with Shilonen. Shilonen was my first redesign, and compared to the other three, you're gonna realize it's way more tame. Because I was still testing the waters with her. And even then, I think I did a pretty good job. The main thing I did with all of these three redesigns is that I made them brown. Because, like, yes, there are white Mexicans. I'm pale myself, so yeah, they do exist. But we're talking about pre Hispanic Mexico. We're talking about Aztecs. There were no white Aztecs as far as I'm concerned. So, for these 3D designs, all of them are brown, and they have brown eyes or darker eyes because in Mexico is the default to have brown eyes and brown hair. It's not common for people to have blue or green eyes in here. So I gave them brown or darker eyes. For the mood board of Shilonen's redesign, I have a statue and drawings depicting Chicomecoatl, which is, the goddess Shilonen is named after. Paintings of indigenous women with corn, because Chicomecoatl, she was the goddess of corn, Aztec armor, Aztec warriors. And when it comes to her design, for her redesign, how I put them together, I gave her some, obviously, feathers on her head, a little crest. I gave her, the original Shilonen has one braid to her side, and I decided to give her two braids on each side of her face, because traditionally Mexican women always wear two braids on each side. And since Shilonen's original design already had one braid, I thought it would be fun if she had two braids and they were both blue. Her earrings I changed to typical Aztec earrings, they are very round. Her jewelry, her necklace is more Aztec now. She wears a traditional Mexican dress, and I divided it into 3 different colors, which are cream, brown, and green, to contrast with her. She has some light blue accents to her clothes, mirroring her twin braids, and obviously her skin, as I mentioned, is darker, her hair is darker. I originally wanted to keep it blonde, but she still looked very white. I gave her a little nose piercing, and I made her nose, obviously in Genshin, everyone has the same tight nose, but if I wanna, be delusional a little bit, she has a bit of a wider nose and thicker eyebrows. I tried to keep her eye shape the same, obviously gave her ears and her tail. With Kenichi's redesign, I want to believe I still made him recognizable. For my references for him, I took Aztec warriors again. I took references of traditional Mexican clothes. I took the depictions of the god Kinichahao, and I took Alebrijes, because in case you didn't know, Kenichi's constellation in game is named after Alebrijes, and it frustrates me to no end because Alebrijes are supposed to be this beautiful cultural representation of animals, and they're super colorful. You can mix everything and it goes perfectly. When I was younger, I had a small alebrije. There was a hawk and a mosquito. Alebrijes are super cool, and if Kinich in his gameplay and design had alebrijes on him, it would have been so cool, but he doesn't. I think what they wanted to do with his canon design was to quote-unquote modernize alebrijes, and that's how they came with this 8-bit aesthetic. If I didn't read his constellation, I would have no idea he was linked with Alebrijes, and it pisses me off. My very main inspirations for my Kinich redesign were obviously Kinichahao and Alebrijes. Mostly, his bandanas stay the same. I just added a lot of green and orange accents because complementary colors, come on, that's cool. Kinichahao in his depictions also wears a bandana-esque thing, so I was like, oh, okay, that's a thing I can keep. I gave my Kinich some Aztec earrings. You can see them in my references. His necklace is also this way. I gave him a little Aztec sun instead of the G he has in his canon design. He has some tattoos now. They are brighter because I'm trying to, portray some alebrijes in there. I just went insane and gave him a lot of color and contrast. I made his eyes yellow instead of green because I think it contrasts better as well, and it's a hint to, the usual brown eye you would find in Mexico. And yeah, he has some bracelets depicting trying to depict, it's just a very rough. These redesigns are very rough. He has some depictions of Aztec bracelets on his arms and a belt. He has some pouches, and yeah, that's what I tried to do with him. And my favorite part of this redesign, it's not even Kenichi, it's a how. In the original design of for a how, he's obviously this 8-bit dragon. But again, if we are following this entire Alebrije aesthetic per se, a how should have been Alebrije. He should have been Kenichi's Alebrije. So that's what I did. I still try to stay close to canon and making him like 2D, like completely, like he has no dimension to him. But, he's still there. He's just a little menace, but Alebrije, he's way colorful. He looks more like a dragon, I think. He has wings. I just try to go a little bit crazy insane with him. And yeah, I think of all the three redesigns, this one is my favorite because, I love Alebrijes. Come on. Now, with Knich and Shilonen, you can still say they look sort of similar to their original designs. You can still be like, okay, yeah, I recognize this as a redesign. I can still tell the similarities and tell they are the same character, just with a different, aesthetic, design, whatever. With Sidlali, she's my OC now. For Sidlali, for my Buto for Sidlali, is that, as far as I know, Sidlali is supposed to be like a shaman, right? For her tribe, which is Mictlan, which again, Mictlan in mythology is the underworld. So if we go down this road of Sidlali being a shaman and she's from Mictlan, that means she is deeply connected with the souls of the dead. And if she helped to raise Oraron, resident emo boy Oraron, and Oraron is linked with the souls of the dead, then I connected the dots, and that led me to Dia de Muertos. Like, I first looked for references for Aztec shamans, and it led me to Mexican shamans in the modern day, and a lot of them are related to Day of the Dead. So, I connected the dots. So for my mood board, I had these Mexican shamans, I had crests that these shamans wear, I had makeup, and I had traditional Mexican dresses, as I did with Shilonen. When it comes to her design, she's just so different. I tried to keep her pink pastel hair just to have something a little bit recognizable about her, but obviously, again, I made her skin darker because, please, come on. I gave her brown eyes, but she still has a little bit of blue, just to like a little hint of blue for her original design, because it's just, I was really trying to make her be related to her original design, but I was desperate, okay? I gave her a crest of feathers. I gave her, the traditional Mexican dress. I added some orange and purple accents with her. I tried to keep her original color palette, but I needed to contrast it with something, and the best thing I had was orange. Because, and since she is supposed to be a shaman linked with the underworld, then I just had to give her a little cempasúchil on her hair. That's the Dia de Muertos flower, cempasúchil. So just a little cempasúchil on her head. And it really accentuated all the blue and purple in her outfit. She still has her face markings from her original design, just they are a bit lighter because they contrast with her skin. She has some pale yellow and orange spots around her eyes. And she has a little bit of makeup around her mouth, symbolizing a skeleton. And those are my redesigns. At this point, these are my OCs, but I was also planning to go on why Shaska's design is so bad. I really like Shaska as a character. I think as a character, she's wonderful. I like her. I would be her friend. But do I need to explain why her design is bad? Not even like culturally bad, just overall. It's so painful, guys. It's so painful. And it sucks because Shaska is such a good character. I'm just gonna let you look at her, form your own opinion, and just, let her get inside your brain and make you upset. So, yeah, that's all the things I wanted to cover. I don't know if I did it great, but for my overall thoughts, it's really fun. Natlan is very fun. I like seeing things I can recognize and be like, oh, yeah, I know that. I like doing that. It's really fun. It's really, really fun. But it's all over the place. And I wish they either centered in African culture or Mexican culture, just not both at the same time. Sumeru was bad. And they shouldn't have done what they did, mixing all those cultures together. But at least in Sumeru, you can argue they are in the same continent. all the cultures they mix are at least in the same continent. Most of them. Mexico and Africa is just. Mexico is a country and Africa is a whole continent. Why are we mixing this? It's so frustrating because it also doesn't let you focus in one culture on the other. Obviously, I'm biased and I would love if it was fully Mexican, but if it was fully African, it would be great. It would be fantastic as well. But instead, we have just two things completely mixed, and I'm tired of it. I'm sick of that. I hate it. I hate it so much. The characters' designs are obviously a huge problem too, as I've mentioned. It's just why. Finally, this is not something that makes me angry or anything. Just the voice actors they picked are actually really good. The actors for English voiceover are actually on a strike right now, so I understand getting a lot of talent for Natlan's English localization is hard. But like they did in Sumeru, and Sumeru they actually had a lot of Swana voice actors, and I really like that. And I would have loved if we had Latino BAs or African BAs for these characters, instead of having just American actors that we have right now. And again, this is not a jab at the current voice actors. I think they're fantastic. I love them, but it would have been cool if we have some Latino or African inclusion when it comes to voice acting. But again, the status of English voiceover right now is horrible, and I get a lot of people are on strikes because they want it to be treated fairly and have their voice protected from AI. So I get it, but and yeah, those are all my thoughts on all the Mexican representation and mythology and just it's a lot. I don't know if I was any clearer. I'm actually very sick. I started recording this very sick and I'm still very sick, so I don't know how clear I was. So I guess I'm gonna have to edit this heavily so it's comprehensible. But I digress. Thank you so much for watching and bearing with me going insane about this. Once the Natlan's storyline is finished, we'll see if I say more stuff, if I make a follow-up video. I will have all the references I have for my research down in the description. All of them are in Spanish, but if it helps you somehow or you just want to be curious, go right ahead. And yeah, that's all for me. I'm really trying to get more animations out of the way, but I'm very busy and sick, so there's a bit of a step back. But I'm very active on Tumblr if you want to hang around. And yeah, I think that's it. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope this was comprehensive enough. Yeah, thank you. Bye.